Layovers, your weekly dose of aviation innovation.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard from the flight deck. This is Paul Papadimitriou.
Hello everybody, this is Alex Hunter.
We'll be your pilots for this show about the news, the startups and the technologies defining the modern air travel experience.
Our flight time today, 1 hour and 7 minutes, and we expect an on-time arrival. Coming up on this flight, EasyJet goes Star Trek with its uniforms. Air Astana shows the iPad is a best-of-class IFE. The potential new reality of airport security after the terror attacks. Twitter as the best customer channel for airlines. Norwegian shows how a website should be done. Testing Etihad's upgrade bidding system. Turkish aces the IFE interface. And should liquids still be put out at security?
As we reach our cruising altitude, I'm going to turn off the fasten seatbelt sign for you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, and let's turn on those noise-cancelling headphones.
Flight 28 to Istanbul. Hi, Alex.
Istanbul, good morning. Yes, morning. Istanbul, one of the outposts on your unbelievably crazy itinerary that you just got back from, which I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more about.
Yeah, field research, as you call it.
Research, so, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I just had 2 weeks of non-stop travels, lots and lots of legs. I'm going to, of course, talk about them throughout the show. Istanbul, it's a wonderful city. It's really one of my favorite cities in Europe. The airport, not that much. You'll hear about that at the end of the show. You and I have some reservations about that airport.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about it at the end of the show. But first of all, of course, we cannot start this show without seeing that basically the world has changed. We're recording just after the attacks in Paris. This is not fun at all. This is not something that anyone was wishing for and anyone was expecting. The reason we say that is obviously that it has some type of link with what we said in the last show as well. We had talked about that Russian airliner that crashed, and we were so sure that it was a mechanical failure. And just after the recording of the show, there were some reports by U.S. intelligence that said, there's 90% chance it was actually a bomb. And since then, I think it was yesterday, we're recording today on Thursday, November the 19th, Russian authorities basically said, it was a bomb.
Yeah, it's, as you say, the world has definitely changed. And I'm heartbroken for Paris. It's one of my favorite cities in the world. And whatever you think about the situation in France on any level, no one deserves this. No one needs this, and it's awful. And my heart goes out to anybody who is affected directly or indirectly by this. I was just as an aside, I was working with some startups yesterday or day before yesterday, and halfway through chatting with one of them, they happened to mention that they were all from Paris, and they were remarkably together, and but had the weight of the world on their shoulders as well. So it's a very strange time for the world. And as you say, travel has changed with it, sadly.
Yeah, so our heart goes for Paris, obviously for Beirut as well. They also had two bombings just before. And of course, for the Russian people that were also hit by that accident over Egypt. It's you said, it feels, last episode you said, it feels less safe to travel. And although the statistics show otherwise, it's true that when you see that, it seems there's been, just after when the Paris attacks happened, since we're talking about air travel here, there were some flights that were diverted. I think American Airlines stopped traveling for Paris for a few hours, not being sure about the situation. There has been also 2 bomb threats, which is, when you think about it, in 2 Air France flights from US to Paris, that forced them to do emergency landings. There's a problem with the signal to noise here. I mean, people start to freak out, which I understand. If I were, in that situation, I would as well. It becomes a bit really. There's also a purport. Have you seen that image, supposedly, of a can of Schweppes that is supposedly the bomb that was put in the Russian airliner?
Yeah, I did see that, and it's hard to, maybe even impossible to confirm the veracity of that report. But it looks so simple and frighteningly simple that they were able to create something that was so devastating with such really primitive ingredients, as it were.
Yeah, so the image was apparently comes from an ISIS social media channel. So obviously the experts are divided. Is it just propaganda to say, look, this is so simple that we could do it anywhere? Obviously, it's too simple to say that they could do it anywhere. It's true that most of the airports have very heightened security, including for airport staff. So it's not as if you can just bring, a bomb in an airport that easily. But it seems that a lot of airlines think that it can't be the case for Sharm el-Sheikh because basically they're not flying there anymore.
Yeah, I've never seen such a blanket response to something like this where governments have mandated that airlines don't fly there anymore. And in perpetuity, some have said we're not flying there indefinitely. Russia has forbidden its airlines flying there, I think, at least through the end of the year. And you feel for the Egyptian people because so much of their economy is dependent on tourism. And when things like this happen, it really damages that economy. So it's just a bad situation all around.
And there was also this piece of news. I'm not sure about its veracity, but apparently it was reported by very serious sources. There was a UK airliner jet which came within 1,000 feet of a missile.
Yeah, this is an extraordinary story that bubbled up during the sort of aftermath of the Sharm el-Sheikh crash. That a Thomson jet, this is back in August, had come within 1,000 feet of a missile, and 1,000 feet in aeronautical terms is right next to it, basically.
Yeah, it's nothing.
It's microscopic. It seems like it was obviously not targeted. They weren't trying to shoot this plane down. It was almost certainly something to do with Egyptian military exercises that were happening in the area. But how on earth can that happen? How can you be testing missiles in an area that planes are flying over? How does that even happen? And that's really frightening.
For the moment, basically, most airlines don't fly to Sharm el-Sheikh. We need to say that they still fly to Cairo. So it's not as if Egypt as a whole has been targeted. It's really that airport, which is a very famous spot for holidays. Is currently basically shut down. I mean, the airport is not shut down, but the routes are being shut down. Yeah. So now the question is, because we had these type of discussions, even though I was traveling and you were not this past 2 weeks, is what will be the consequences in general for flying? Because every time there are such things happening, that they don't happen that much often, we see heightened security and probably we'll see more. It will be more difficult to travel, even though most probably in the case of that Russian airliner, the bomb, if the scenario that is being proven was not put by a passenger, but was put by someone,
staff. Yeah, exactly.
A staff or someone who entered the perimeter of the airport within the to reach the aircraft. And one of the thoughts we had is that obviously there might be more security theater. So, even though, again, nothing like the passengers are not at fault here, there might be more security theater, which will make travels even more painful for us.
Yeah.
But one of the thoughts I had is that we've seen that already. Of course, Israel basically insources security anywhere in the world. So though we might not be going there, if you look at what the US is doing and also a bit the UK, they're also doing that kind of insourcing. By insourcing, I mean, instead of trusting the local authorities and the local security staff and even the local handlers, they basically send their own guys there to handle all of this. And we might see that more and more. I'm not saying in all airports in the world, but basically in airports that countries for good or bad reasons consider at risk. They might say, you know what, we'll have American people doing the American screening for our own jets, at least for the airlines that are not for the ones that are with American passengers in the case of America, but for at least the American airlines. The same might happen for the UK, which problematically will actually increase the cost, and that cost might actually be given to us.
Of course,
on airline.
It definitely will, and I think we will absolutely see that, at least in the short term, where at airports that have been deemed permeable, if you will. And you're right. I mean, this is what El Al do. No one from outside that organization can get anyone near any of their airplanes, and at huge cost to them. I mean, you always you go to any airport and almost without exception, they're parked on a remote stand that's always cordoned off. There's always somebody standing near the airplane. And I think you're right. I think we will see that. We will see governments taking on security at foreign airports for their own airlines.
And I had seen that already a few times. I think when I was living in Manila, I remember with the American Airlines, there were some American staff clearly there. I don't know if they were handling the entire screening process, but of course they were there. Now you found, because, in the US, since we're talking about the US, the security administration is called the TSA, but they're not that good. You've seen this article. Apparently there was a gun that got into a plane or something.
Yeah. The TSA have a very bad reputation, and they have, frankly, in my opinion, earned that reputation. And this is extraordinary. A chap at Atlanta Airport, a very big, huge, one of the busiest airports in the world, took a loaded gun through security and boarded a flight without anyone stopping him. And the only reason they figured this out is because he realized he'd forgotten to take his gun out of his bag, and he said. He didn't realize until he got to his destination, and he said, I just wanted to do the right thing. I didn't want to get anybody in trouble. So he sort of fessed up and said, I'm really sorry I did this. And the TSA said basically, whoops, and they're going to retrain their employees. But if it's so simple that you can not even remember that you have a gun, i.e. make no active attempt to conceal it, and still get it through security at one of the biggest airports in the world, then they might as well not be there.
Yeah, it's there's an article I'm going to put in the show notes on Quartz, which has many quotes about the inability of the TSA to basically ensure that they talk about there are regularly, exercises. So basically they try to put unlawful material in planes. We're talking guns, obviously, and others. And they go through most of the time, and they say, well, what's the point of having the TSA if these stuff go through? And it's the reason we want to mention that is obviously if we get more security theater, well, at least it has to be efficient. Otherwise, right. What's the point? What's the point of making our lives even more difficult if you cannot even screen a gun?
And when you say theater, and I think that's a perfectly appropriate word, you mean that it's all for show. It's not actually doing anything to improve the security.
Yeah, sadly so, because I'm not going to making blanket statements that it's always bad and it's always, but overall, it doesn't seem that according to most of what we read, there's been congressional reports about the TSA, but also in other countries have been research about it, that there has been problems with it. And there was also this other story you found, which also means it's becoming... People are freaking out, sometimes for no reason, right?
You always get this residue when something like this happens. And in in Baltimore, on a Chicago-bound flight, 4 passengers were removed as the plane was taxiing for acting, quote unquote, suspiciously. Now, these people were said to be of Middle Eastern descent. This always happens. People are jumpy. They make kind of their imaginations run wild. I'm sure that these people were doing absolutely nothing, and it's a shame that we knee jerk to situations like this.
Absolutely. And we might see that for a little bit. So anyone who's traveling will be traveling. You will be traveling to Dubai next. I'll be also traveling to the Middle East and other parts of the world, and we might see that it's really sad. I hope this dwindles fast. I mean, I hope we find because it's never a good state of affairs. Especially, I mean, I'm going to say it. We're lucky. We're 2 white guys, so it also makes maybe our lives easier. But I mean, not all the world is white, so I hope other people are not targeted uselessly. One story about security in my travel. So I did travel with Etihad. It had been years I hadn't traveled with Etihad. I'll mention that a bit later, but I did. I was in premium, so I got an amenity kit. The basically toiletries that they give you. Then I continued on. I arrived in Astana in Kazakhstan, and I had put that one in my carry-on. So I had a backpack and a carry-on both with me in the plane. When I cleared security in Astana, I totally had forgotten that I put that in my carry-on. You're supposed to put your liquids out. So I had, the usual liquid pack, the transparent bag out. But that one didn't say anything. Air Astana also gave me an amenity kit. So I had 2. I spent the night in Istanbul, and I put that second one also in my carry-on. And when I cleared security again, this time again, nobody said anything at Istanbul airport. And the same thing at Zagreb airport, and the same thing then at Skopje airport, and the same thing again at Istanbul when I passed again. Meaning that I was wondering, because at the end for me it was almost like game. I said, there are clearly, small liquids in there. So why do they ask me to remove the liquid bag if in the carry-on there are 2 Americans with liquids and they don't say anything? I'm not sure about it.
And I was thinking about this after you told me that story. I wonder, and this doesn't exonerate them from any inconsistency, I wonder if when they see them on the X-ray, they can say that's under 100 mils, therefore it doesn't need to be removed, or it's okay to go. But the 100 mil thing is is totally arbitrary.
Obviously, it is.
It makes no sense. I think that's kind of the whole joke of the liquids policy. But how are you going to? I know that I've had issues going through security at London airports where you forget to take out a thing of toothpaste that's like 25 mils, and that they'll find it and they'll take it out and they'll give you a finger wag. What's the consistency? What's the policy? What is it actually intended to do? Is it even a thing anymore?
It's not certain. I'm not complaining. It was, I truly had forgotten it. And then I just played along and see, will they ever ask me to remove these products? And it didn't. There are different policies in different countries, obviously. So I didn't check any but there's an insistence on, where are you liquids? And you put out a bag at the same time, the remaining liquids, nobody even dared to ask me. I don't know. Anyway, honestly, I don't know. And I'm not here to say that it shows that we should stop asking for liquid. In truth, there are inconsistencies in how they deal with it. And, which sometimes makes me think it's a bit of a theater more than an actual,
Absolutely.
There might be like a real dangerous product in those liquids. So moving on a little bit away from the bad news that we had, because we also want to share some happy news. So first, I don't know if it's a bad news. We had said several episodes ago that Emirates was introducing a 2-class A380 to Copenhagen instead of the 3-class with the famous showers on the top. They have no only economy and business. The plane just started, and it's the aircraft with the most passengers in. It is 615 people.
And wow. That's the most ever.
That's the most ever, yes. I think theoretically, if you put an only economy, you can go to 800.
Wow.
I think that was when Airbus started selling the A380, that's what they said. I don't know if we'll ever reach that, if any low cost or something.
Well, it's so interesting to me. So for reference, the largest capacity right now or configuration is 538, which is Air France, but in the 80s and 90s, and I'm you know this as well as anybody, in Japan you would have these all economy 747s. In fact, Boeing developed a specific type of 747. I think it was a 400 derivative, just for the Japanese domestic market. That was
there's a very famous Tokyo to Osaka route.
Yeah.
One of the busiest in the world in terms of passengers. And you had these 747s going back and forth, fully loaded with economy. Now with the advent of the Shinkansen, the bullet train, I'm not sure they're still flying these big fat 747s.
I don't know. But it's, I think that maybe Airbus had hedged a few airframes to that market, but it's never materialized. This is the closest it's got, and 615. That's a lot of people, but it's taken this long to get that far is interesting to me.
Plus, having flown this, I've never flown that configuration. There's a lot of people, but because the airports are laid out in a way to, there are multiple jet bridges and stuff, it doesn't seem that it takes forever to, it's not that disturbing. You'll fly the A380, I think, to Dubai, right?
Yes, but A380 both ways.
So you'll be able to try, not the 2-class, but you'll see, because the lower deck is and was full economy. So it seems to be a lot, but it's actually quite okay, I believe. Quickly on Emirates, fantastic video.
Yeah.
These guys, so they do all these videos, of course, promotional videos, marketing videos, and they use the A380 a lot because that's what they mainly use, along with the 777. So there's this promotional video of the A380 flying over Dubai with 2 guys on jetpacks.
Unbelievable. It's the most staggering video that I've seen in a very, very long time. They're like the kings of stuff like that. I think Dubai plus Emirates equals amazing videos like this.
Probably also because you get authorizations. I don't think you could have an A380 with 2 jetpacks flying over New York or London.
No,
right?
No, you're right. But if you get a chance, watch the video. It's really breathtaking.
So now, happy birthday to EasyJet. It's 20 years. They really, truly changed the face of travels here in Europe, along with others like Ryanair and all the others. But 20 years, wow! You
know what? I'm a big cheerleader for EasyJet. I think they're a great airline. What they have achieved in 20 years is extraordinary, and I think they should be commended. Their CEO Carolyn McCall is super smart and incredibly. She's easily one of the best airline CEOs in the world. And has just taken the airline on an incredible trajectory. So congratulations to them.
And we said many times, it's actually a very good product.
It is a good product, yeah.
Yeah, it's really in terms of, even if you just compare it with other low costs, I think it's one of the best low costs I've ever flown with. I mean, the crew are great. The seats, especially the newer seats, they are also very comfortable for where they are. So it's a really good airline. Now, I'm not sure about the plans that just unveiled though.
This can't be real. This cannot be real. There's no way that this is real. So EasyJet have unveiled what they call futuristic LED studded uniforms for next year. And I kept waiting for this to be, it's a concept, but they're doing it. And it's basically these uniforms that have LEDs built into them, like accessories. They're almost like a stripe of LEDs. And they say that it's supposed to enhance safety on board and on the ground. And it's got built-in microphones, cameras. I can see it working for ground crew who are in and around the airplane in low visibility or bad weather, being able to see something like that. But this can't be real, can it?
On board? No. I mean, there's a whole infrastructure. Let's not exaggerate, but they say that each suit will have the flight number on it being flashed or something. I don't even see, I get to see the point, because now if you're talking to that person, is the right person or something. I'm not sure if is it really something that enhances the passenger experience?
No, I think for the cabin crew, it doesn't make any sense. But for engineers, I think it makes a lot of sense.
That's different.
Yeah, because they've said that the LEDs on the jacket can illuminate the area in which they're working. It's got a built-in camera, so they can take a picture and send it over to other engineers or their engineering department to get an assessment. That makes a lot of sense. But for the cabin crew, I think that's more of a PR angle than anything else.
Yeah, we'll see if it actually happens or if it's, like you said, just more PR. But they've been doing stuff. I mean, there's a lot of always criticisms about low cost that they don't think about a passenger. But they have an Apple Watch app. They have
they're very innovative.
Yeah, they are very innovative. The only thing that they don't have yet, and we've been talking as well many times, that there's no IFE. It's true that there are short flights. But I'm sure, and you told me that you're sure that they are looking into products to either stream content to your device, because it's a new revenue stream for them as well. So we'll see if it happens. And I had an interesting one. So I flew Air Astana for the first time from Kazakhstan, so Astana, to Istanbul.
How was it?
It was a great flight. Honestly, it was a fantastic flight. It's a brand new A320. It was probably a year old. The product is very good. I was in premium, let's be honest, but also behind, it seems to be, very quality. The staff is really nice. You could see that they're making a lot of efforts. The flight was about 4.5 hours. So of course, when I enter an airline that I don't know, immediately I look, will there be IFE? So should I put out my laptop and my noise cancelling headphones? Should I basically provide my own? And that's what I assumed, because I saw, these little LED numbers on the side of the seats, so which kind of tell this is going to be a very old-fashioned, overhead screen, and I can choose my channel. So I put everything out. We take off, and then they hand me an iPad. And they handed each of the passenger an iPad, and it was a fantastic experience. For the first time I actually used an iPad. I had used a tablet 5 years ago in a plane, but we're talking 5 years ago. But honestly, when I think about all the IFEs and fancy IFEs we've tried, this was the most fantastic experience. It was snappy. It was fast. It just worked great. Wow. They had made a little hinge so you could actually, put in the seat in front of you. So you actually sit like a proper screen.
But what about moving map?
So, So there was no moving map on that one.
From what I understand, on their wide body, because you were on an A320, right?
Yes.
So apparently on their wide bodies, on their 757s and 767s, they use the overhead monitors for the moving map.
I was about to tell you that. So there was a movie that was playing all the overhead monitors for parts of the flight. And then when that one was switched off, it came back to the map. So, of course, I had the map on top and I had the iPad in front of me.
Oh, that's all you need.
When you think about it, it's such snappier that all the crazy stuff they invest in other airlines. I'll come to this later on today because I've tried other IFEs. It was a fantastic experience. A company that does that, because I went to look for it, it's called Blue Box Avionics. It's really an app because I was able to go out because, I was trying to get out. And there was one single app, and that app was this one. And so it's a very fantastic experience. The flight was a fantastic experience. The food was great. The crew was great. The staff, they were really, really nice. So I think it's something that other airlines should think about instead of trying too hard to create, old-fashioned IFEs. I think this is a great way to provide entertainment for people.
Yeah.
I would compare that to, so I was on Etihad from Manchester to Abu Dhabi and then Abu Dhabi to Astana. So prior to that, the first bit was that aircraft you love, the A340-600. You always find it kind of shoot at. By the way, it's over. That flight, they're stopping the production because it's going to be replaced by the A350.
Right.
So, great experience. Why? Because I had bid. So I received an email maybe a week before I'm about to fly to say, do you want to upgrade yourself? So I was already in business class, paid by the client. So I'm like, And I look at the prices. So it doesn't tell you how much you have to bid. So it's a company called Plusgrade. They do that for a lot of airlines around the world.
So there wasn't a minimum bid that you had to pay?
No, the minimum was 0. And the maximum you could go, I think it was like almost 1,500 British pounds, which is a lot of money. I tried to be clever. I tried to go on their website and try to book myself on first to see what is the normal price for first. I couldn't get that. They said fully booked. I'm like, damn it. So I tried many things. Apparently it's new. So I talked to one of the staff in the plane. They used to do a 2-class configuration. They just added the 3-class configuration to have a first class. So I ended up paying almost nothing because there's when you do there's a little slide. It's pretty well done. There's a slide you can go how much you want to bid. And on the side of that slide, there's an indicator that says, are you in the red? So almost no chances to actually get an upgrade. Are you in the kind of the yellow and green, dark green, etc.? And even at very low bids, I was already in the green. So I said, you know what? I don't want to pay too much, but I'm just going to try for the hell of it. And I tried.
Was that slider indicator on Plusgrade site or the Etihad site?
It was Etihad site, but probably it's branded because they tell you that the process is separate. They tell you that process is completely separate. I guess once the bid is accepted, in the background, Plusgrade contacts Etihad upgrades you, etc. There was no manage my booking, the usual stuff you see on so it was a separate part of the website.
I see.
But it was still Etihad. I mean, for most people, you would look as if you're on Etihad's website. So there's no seemingly different look and feel. So I won, and I was on first class, obviously. Very, very nice. I was the only guy on first class.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm going to say that there was a chef, like they do, like Emirates does, and all these Turkish does, even in business. And very, young crew, like Emirates. So it was really nice. I told them, stop all the decorum. I'm a young, so don't overdo it with me. Let's just have a nice flight and chat and whatever. So it was really enjoying my time, obviously. The chef told me that it was almost the first time he actually worked on that route because most of the time the first class is empty.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
But do you think, Manchester to Abu Dhabi, do you think that's a lot of or a higher proportion of leisure traffic
It's the first time I flew out of Manchester, so I'm not absolutely sure. It's the second biggest, it's the second biggest financial center, if you want, in terms of economy in the UK. So there must be people that travel for work. And business was full, almost full.
Interesting.
I guess maybe 90% full because I went for a walk. So I don't know, man. But it's so either it was just a month. It's basically a month they had started. I'm not even sure they advertised it maybe correctly as well, or simply maybe it just doesn't make any economical sense. Just trying. Maybe they have this extra aircraft and they say we're going to put that on our route. But they had, because all the other staff, if there's no one in first, they can go and help people in business or in coach. So they can, but the chef is exclusively reserved for first class. So if there's no one in first class, he simply doesn't work. He told me, I'm really happy you're here because I can work. So,
that's...
and all the fancy stuff, like, there was a menu. I kept the menu. I should put a picture online at one point. And they said, do you want something from the grill? You're like, what? I mean, the usual doesn't make sense. And it's up. I mean, once in a while, I don't get that too often. So I said, why not? It was a fantastic experience, obviously. What was not that fantastic was trying to book myself. So like Emirates, they offer a chauffeur service. So you can get, basically there's a private hire car that takes you from where you are around the airport to the airport. I was in Sheffield, so that was in the 100 miles that they consider for this service. And I tried to call them because on the website, when I was trying to put Sheffield, the website was forcing me to put Manchester. I was like, no, I'm in a different city. I need the other city. So I called them, and I know you've been through that one as well, and we'll talk about it. They make it really hard to actually talk to someone. You end up in these loops when at the end they say, oh, you should check our website. You're like, no, I want to talk to someone. I found at the end, and if anyone wants to talk to me, I'll tell you how to reach someone at the end of these things. But it's really hard. And you've basically told me that you simply use Twitter, and that works very good, right?
Yeah, I've been amazed with how efficient and successful Twitter is as a support channel for these airlines. I've had two experiences with two separate airlines. For example, BA, I was trying to get some miles back for a flight that was canceled, and I spent 25 minutes on the phone with their premium support line, because I have status with them, they give you a special number to call. And 25 minutes, we couldn't really get to the end of the process to get them back. One DM to them on Twitter, and the miles were in my account in 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah. I think we talked a little bit about that. I'm wondering if the social media teams, let's call them like that, have maybe more power, or maybe they are based in the UK as opposed to, these customer centers are often based either in the Philippines, India, etc. Maybe they simply have more power to get things done.
I think they do. I think they're probably more skewed towards handling tech-savvy customers just by virtue of the fact that the channel that they're working. So you can have pretty good conversations with them. I think it's a number of things. And I think the airlines and customers, brands in general, have realized that you can't remove or decouple the customer service side from the ability to solve the problem. They have to be one and the same. So you have to equip those people to be actually able to solve the problem and not just placate the customer.
Yeah, I should use that more often. I should actually have used that with Etihad. I didn't.
And they helped as well. I was trying to make a change to a flight, and I couldn't get through to a human on the phone.
Told you.
And I messaged them on Twitter publicly and said, hey, can you help me with this? And they said, DM us your phone number and we'll have someone call you straight away. I was like, that's great. That's fantastic.
And I will say something. When I reach, because now I know how to reach someone at Etihad, when I reach, they were in the UK, but they were extremely efficient. The person on the side of the phone was kind, efficient. He got me sorted out very, very quickly. So I was really happy. So maybe they don't have, they're still thinking, like many airlines, they're thinking oh, you know what? There's so many things you can do online. It is true. There are most of the stuff in these modern airlines, you can go on the website and do it on your own.
Yeah.
But there are edge cases, cancellations of flight you're not sure about what's going to happen. Or in my case, I know this is a very, very edge case. I want to book a chauffeur service and the website doesn't allow me to put it on the city I want.
Yeah.
These are small edge cases that, you truly have to talk to someone or at least DM someone. So I should have used Twitter. I will use them because other than that, Etihad was great. I wanted to say, I forgot. because I talked about the iPad on Air Astana.
Yeah.
So the IFE on Etihad is fantastic. But to be honest, it's not as snappy as the iPad. This is where you so you have this very fancy modern entertainment system, and the iPad beats it. It's just incredible.
That is incredible.
Air Astana was also very kind to actually tweet me, because I tweeted that I was very happy, and they tweeted back. They also seem to be active on social, on Twitter, saying that very happy. You were very happy about your first flight. So thank you guys. You are really a great airline, and I hope you go very far, because more people should fly you. Great airline.
Oh, I'm disappointed I had to cancel my flight with them, but I'm sure I'll get an opportunity to fly with them in the future.
One flight that we shared, and the common history, is that I had to fly from Zagreb to Skopje with Croatian Airlines. It was the first time I flew on Croatian Airlines. And you immediately told me, oh, I remember I've flown them. I love these airlines. They have a Pope plane. What is a Pope plane?
The Pope plane. So, yeah, I flew them maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I was in the first row of the plane, and there's a little plaque on there that says that this particular airplane had transported the Pope at some point on it. It says the dates and everything. I think it says it in about 3 languages. And I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. Never been on the same plane as obviously he wasn't on the plane at the same time as me, but just that they chose to kind of commemorate that, and that I got to go on it. And then, as you and I, as we always do, are kind of messaging back and forth, and you said I'm flying Croatian Airlines, and I told you that story, and you're like, wait a minute, there's a plaque at the front of this airplane. And so for the first time, we flew on the same airplane.
Yeah, exactly.
What are the odds? I mean, frankly, if you think about it, what are the odds of the same airplanes doing the same, the route that we had both taken? And I flew London. No, it was Zagreb, Frankfurt, and you had done Zagreb, Skopje, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's cool. That's cool.
That was also an eventful flight, because for the first time, so there were 2 passengers that boarded very late in the plane, and there was a couple, and she was clearly, let's put it that way, wasted.
Gee.
Really not being able to stand up correctly, and slurring and shouting, and I was like, oh damn God. And I was also in the very first row, and they sat almost next to me, and I'm like, oh dear God, this flight is going to be very long. I better put out my noise cancelling headphones. And then we're not taking off. We're waiting and waiting and waiting. I'm like, something is going on. And obviously, after a few minutes, what happens? The police is in. And so I think the captain wanted to throw them out. They started negotiating. And then I think the captain just was like, oh, damn it. It's just an hour something flight. I just don't want to negotiate forever. Let's get on with it. So the police left. So I almost had, for the first time, seeing someone be thrown out of a plane. Didn't happen. The people that ended up not being next to me, they went on the back, so I was kind of relieved. Everything went well, but I mean, it was really an eventful week, so it was like not another problem.
Yeah, your trip was unbelievable.
Yeah, why do I say that? Because that's the biggest of them all. So I was in Turkey in the morning, very early. I had a very early flight. I was supposed to fly from Istanbul to Skopje. My flight was at 7 something. I decided to stay in the hotel airports within Istanbul airport, airside. I wake up, I had my alarm clock at 5. I wake up, and first thing I see is a TripIt notification on my phone, your flight is canceled. I'm like, oh, no way.
So the notification came from TripIt?
Yes. So the flight had been booked on Expedia. Expedia, nothing. So Expedia had sent me, the gate changes, had sent me all the rest of my flight. Don't forget to check in, blah, 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 nothing. Turkish, I'll admit, I didn't book through Turkish, so there was no direct relationship. But they had, my email, they had my mobile phone number, nothing. So I was really happy that I had TripIt, and others also Fly to From, which is another app, also had sent me a notification. I'm saying that because I was supposed to, I put the alarm clock very early because I wanted to make myself a coffee, take a shower, take my time. And, then at that point I was like, oh, damn it. There's no other flight that leaves to Skopje until tonight, and I need to be there. So I was directly on Google Flights trying to understand what should I do. And I rushed out of my room and I said, okay, there's a flight to Frankfurt. I can take that 6:45, and I take a connecting flight. I go out, I see the big board, flight to Frankfurt canceled. And I go,
what? So hang on a second. I want to make sure I'm clear on this. You got a notification from TripIt, but you did not get a notification from Expedia, through whom you booked the ticket, nor from Turkish, who was doing the flight.
Correct. Exactly.
So if you hadn't paid for the TripIt Pro, because that's a feature for TripIt Pro, right?
Correct.
You would have been blissfully asleep and not.
Yeah, I would have gotten out of my room much later, which by that time I would have probably missed the flight that I ended up making, which is the one through Zagreb. Because, and people like you and me, we know where to go. We immediately go on Google Flights, and I'm like, okay, what are the options? What can I do from here? And I go my mind was racing. I need to get there. How do I do this? I'm not going to rely on the customer service of Turkish to tell me how to do that. Which, by the way, was my next thing. So I still had to cancel my flight. There's no app to go through and do that. So I had to go customer service. So I go, I'm like, the layout we'll talk about at the end. The layout of this airport is not clear, so I don't know where to go. I end up going, I see that it's near the gates. It's at the opposite end of where I am. I'm going there. I'm queuing a little bit. Fine. I mean, many flights got canceled. So I'm like, okay, why? It's okay. I arrive and I say, okay, my flight has been canceled. And I have in my hand my Google Flights. And I said, okay, this is the only thing I could work. And she barely looks at it. She types, almost doesn't talk to me. And then she hands me a boarding pass. Okay. And the boarding pass says the flight from 6:20 p.m. So that's like 12 hours later. And I'm like, I look at her and says, this is not what I asked. I need, this is way too late for me. And I'm showing you here a route that I can do. A manager was just behind her, steps in and looks at my boarding pass and says, oh, sir, but you're in premium. So that's not the right desk. And I'm like, yes, but I'm here and you can do it. Said, no, but that's not the right desk. You need to go to that desk 126 on the other hand of the airport. I'm like,
oh, for Pete's.
And at that time, over. No more talking to me. So I'm like, okay, I need to get that done. So I rush to the other side of the airport. I arrive and I see clearly, these premium are clearly marked. There's a carpet in front of it that is slightly different. So you're like, okay, this is a premium desk. But I see that the premium desk is cordoned off. These usually the nice cord that they put to make it fancy. It was just closed off. So I go on the side and I talk to the guy, say, hey, this is a premium desk. He looks at me and say, yes. And I say, so I had this flight, blah, 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 tell my story. Because you need to get out of the airport and do that at ticketing. I'm like, no, but I was just in here. I'm airside. I've never actually left Istanbul airport. I never actually went to Turkey in a way because it was, no, don't want to know. You need to go there. I mean, unbelievable. That's unbelievable. The guy and then stopped to talk to me. There was two other people with me next to me that were having the same issue. We looked at each other and said, okay, well, the guy simply doesn't want to work. So I had to go out. So I had to actually clear immigration.
What?
Which, you think I'm thankful that I have this kind of passport that I can go in any country because, if you have a specific passport and you cannot clear customs, immigration very, very easily, that's a pain. And I go out and the same thing happens forever. I try to find the premium ticketing, which is not marked as well. I ended up finding it. This time I was so tired. I went to that lady and I told her, this is a flight you're putting me on. You have no choice. And she looked at me and said, you have no choice. Put me on that flight. And she but I said, no. And she did it. I'm sorry to her, by the way. I was a bit maybe rude or directive or something. But, so customer service at Turkish is still not there yet, to be honest. A great product. And I'll talk about it a bit later. So that was what I said.
I have no idea how you kept your cool because that would have driven me crazy.
I think I kept my cool because I want to get things done. I want to be in Skopje for the client. There's no other way. I need to get there. Yeah. And that was my only option. So the flight going through Zagreb was my only option. But it shows you that sometimes we're lucky, you and me, and other people maybe that listen to us, that we have all these tools and we know about these tools, where to look for alternate flights, how to get a notification. This is what we're trying to do in this show. But at the end of the day, you still have to talk to a human. We said customer service. That's the kind of thing where it breaks sometimes. Yeah. So talking about breaking, Air India has thankfully not broken up, but there was this very worrying story that you found.
This popped up on airliners, and the story has only come out, but this happened 2 years ago. An Air India 787 flew from New Delhi to Bangalore with 147 people on it, and there's a panel that covers the heat exchanger, and it has spaces for 47 screws to make sure that it is safely attached. There were only 4 screws in it. So it flew with 4 of 47 screws installed. And that is, I think, pretty, not typical is not the right word, but it's just another maintenance issue from Air India on basically a brand new airplane. And it's frightening. It's really frightening. If they're doing that, then what else are they doing or not doing in this instance?
Absolutely. There's again, Kanaya sent me an article that is really well done by Vanity Fair, where it's just basically the state of maintenance today. It's very US centric, but it shows you how maintenance now, it's more and more outsourced. Maintenance of aircraft, that is, it's outsourced in third-party countries. They mention El Salvador and Mexico, of course, China and others. And again, here we're not talking about dissing El Salvador, China, or Mexico.
No. So I have a couple of thoughts on and reactions to this article, which is
please, because it's a very long article,
but it's very well written,
read it.
And very interesting. And you should definitely read it. So a couple of things. I fail to be persuaded that the FAA would allow this to happen if it was of any risk to safety. And secondly, there's a little bit of fear mongering in here, a lot of fear mongering here by saying
you're right.
It's done in China, therefore it's bad. And let's remember that
I agree.
One of the single best maintenance facilities in the world is in Xiamen in China, Takeo, which is owned by Swire, who own Cathay and just a bunch of other, just about every other, high quality aviation infrastructure company in the world. They are, without dispute, quantifiably one of the best airline and aviation manufacturing and maintenance companies in the world. So just because it's in China doesn't mean it's bad. I don't know anything about El Salvador or Mexico, but
no, I agree. This is why I said we should be dissing, because it's too easy. And that's also the thing. I'm not as well informed as you in terms of the maintenance spots in the world, but it's true that just saying, guys, it's in El Salvador, it means that it's crap. This is just way too easy. The world has changed. You see engineers now, great engineers all around the world. It doesn't mean that something is done in a third country that, oh, guys, our planes are going to crash.
Yeah.
But it still leaves out the door, or how do we make sure that certification happens in other countries? I don't know, to be honest. I have no clue. For the moment, like we said many times over, it's never has been as safe to fly. Planes don't dislocate in midair just like that. So it seems that at least it seems to be working, especially in countries that have very high standard of quality maintenance in terms of regulation.
Yes.
Most of the countries in Europe, in the US and others. It's true that some countries don't. There was a very quick article that I found on LinkedIn, actually. Someone said, should there be a Carfax report for commercial airliners? So basically a Carfax is, you have your car and it says, oh, your car has been damaged here and there. And, when you want to sell it as a secondhand car, there's a kind of a report. And they said we should do the same for airliners, and it should be accessible to public. So
yeah, but what
exactly
good will the public having this information do? It won't. It won't do anything.
I think it would just create this kind of thing like, oh, this aircraft had a tail strike 10 years ago, I'm not going to fly it. Whereas actually, if the repair is done correctly, there's no problem. So I agree. I just wanted to mention it because to see that there's this kind of debate going on around.
I think it's not. We shouldn't have that. I think you can go on airfleets.net and see how old an airplane is and what airlines have owned it, and that will give you some. You do that on most U.S. airlines, and you won't want to fly any U.S. airline because the plane will almost guaranteed be older than you are.
And we're not that young anymore.
Yeah.
Talking about that, it was so the first week of my 2 weeks of travels, I was flying with Swiss from London to Zurich. There was a lot of fog, if you remember, if you guys live in London. So a lot of flights got canceled. And it was the first day I got lucky that the flights were actually taking off again. So, and we are at the gate, and suddenly, 5-minute delay, 10-minute delay, 20 minutes, how it goes. And we're like, what's going on there? And suddenly the guy announces, oh, we got to ditch a third of the passengers. Like, what? Turns out the last emergency exit door, couldn't be opened properly. So they had no choice but, it's not a risk for flying. It's just a risk in case of evacuation.
Yeah, because it's a certain number of passengers per exit, right?
Per exit, because you have to ensure a quick evacuation 90 seconds. So, but then what the mess it happened because Heathrow, for those who don't know, Heathrow has it's a privatized system of handling. So each airline can have its own handling, and handlers are competing against each other. You can see there's always a dispatcher, so a person responsible for the flight to make sure the flight leaves on time and everything happens smoothly. And he's obviously an employee of that handling company. And you could see the guy was freaking out because they get, since Heathrow, it's so at capacity, the fines for plane that leaves late are really hefty.
Right.
And the guy, he made one mistake. After just announcing a third of the people would make the flight, instead of telling them to go to, a separate desk, he just said, "I'll come to the gate," and just talk to us. So basically the entire hundreds of passengers started being at the gate. So there was a huge mess. Who's going to get into the plane? Who's going to not go into the plane? Which delayed even further. And we got into the plane and we were missing passengers, obviously, because some of the passengers haven't seen that mess. They said, "You know what? I'm not going to even try. I'm surely not there. So I'm going to go back having a coffee." So then they were on the lookout for where are the passengers that were.
Jeez.
Funnily enough, the guy next to me was waiting with me at the gate was executive at Swiss. He handles the online, all the websites, basically. The guy had his flights canceled 5 times leading to that day because of the fog. And he was like, "Please tell me we're taking off. Tell me we're taking off. I want to go back."
Oh, God.
But the worst was probably Lufthansa. It's just after we recorded last time, we were talking about the European problems with unions and carriers. But suddenly, there was the biggest strike ever by Lufthansa. What a mess! We were so happy that neither of us were flying Lufthansa.
Yeah,
you were about to fly Lufthansa, and they canceled so many flights.
It was a huge strike. This seems to happen like clockwork for Lufthansa at the moment. I mean, that they cannot catch a break. I mean, it was we're talking over 1,000 flights were canceled, and Flight Radar 24, whose tweets are super, super interesting, was showing kind of befores and durings and afters, just to showing the number of Lufthansa planes in the air over Europe. And it was staggering how many flights weren't flying.
Yeah, it was. I had a few friends flying out from San Francisco and on Lufthansa. They were all shouting, "What the hell is happening?" It's really damaging for the brand, obviously, but also, Germany has this kind of brand of reputation of, quality and on time. Yep. And it's really not easy for them. So
No. This one was caused by the cabin staff this time. Last time, I think it was the pilots.
Yeah, but it's a big one. And the competition is obviously, for instance, Norwegian. So we had mentioned Norwegian in the last 2 episodes, and a friend of ours, John Bradford, who tweeted us a lot, actually put some pictures of the product on Twitter for us to see. He actually said something very interesting. He said, if Virgin Atlantic launched today, it would look something like Norwegian transatlantic. Interesting, right?
I agree. I've never flown Norwegian. I want to. I'm looking forward to it. But having heard feedback and experiences, it sounds like a very Virgin product.
By the way, and so when he was doing that, we were starting, you and me, talking as we always do about that airline. And I stumbled upon, because I had never checked their website, and they have the website, they call it Long Distance Revolution, where they talk about their transatlantic route. What an amazing website.
Yeah, they've done an incredible job of this kind of interactive experience, really showcasing the Dreamliner, because that's what they use on their long haul.
Correct.
And it's neat. I mean, it does, why it's such an efficient airplane, play with all the features like the windows and
you can make your seat. You can see the different seating, and you can make them recline. You can see how it would feel, the mood of the lightning. It makes you want to fly them.
Yeah, it's a very, very well done site.
Yeah, I would totally fly. I really want to fly them now, even more because I've never flown the 787, but also because it's not only good branding. It's really, it shows the difference between some other airlines. I just mentioned Turkish. It's so difficult to understand which product you're going to have. Whereas when you see that, you're like, wow, this is what I'm going to be expecting.
Yes.
This looks cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's really cool. Talking about,
I want to try them.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm excited to try them. I need to find a route there, and they're cheap too, because I think it's a no frills isn't the right word, but you pay for some of your amenities like IFE and food and all that stuff, which I think is fine as long as you know to expect it.
And I think I will really try to fly them next time I go to the US. I really want to see what it's all about. It seems really, really cool. So Thank you, John. Shout out to you for always being so kind to us and retweeting and talking about your airline experience. We'll have to invite you one of these days on our show. And we want to know all about Norwegian. And we'll also ask, of course, Greg for that because he's been flying them so many times.
Yeah.
I'm going to grant something to Turkish. So Turkish is a difficult airline to love because they have like I mentioned, the customer service is still not great. But it's a company that has gone from flag carrier, very traditional, old-fashioned, almost civil servant attitude, that is trying to go to the 21st century. And it has one of the youngest fleets. It is going forward. It's investing a lot of money into its product, a lot of money into its strategy. It's actually, I think it's the airline that flies in the most destinations in the world, even more than Emirates, at 180 or something. So they actually are a very good airline. They've been named many times, the world's best European airline. I think not world's best European. That doesn't mean anything. The European's best European airline on Skytrax. And you know what? I flew. That was my last leg. I flew Istanbul to London. I on purpose chose to fly the A330-300. So a little tip: if you fly these premium rights, look on Turkish website. They tell you which aircraft, the best aircraft, the new product is on the 777, on the 330.
Okay.
And wow. Yes, when you fly that, this is clearly the best airline in Europe. Honestly, the product is fantastic. The quality, the staff was great, obviously. The seats were amazing. I was in premium. I cannot even believe what kind of seats it's. We're not talking, of course, the luxurious things that some of the Middle Eastern carriers are doing, but fantastic quality. And the IFE. So I just said that we mentioned many times the IFE. This is by far the best IFE I've ever seen. It's so snappy. It's called New Planet. It's so snappy.
Wow.
It's elegant. It shows you, you'd love it because it shows you all the information. There's a little map and it shows you how much time you have. You have like many information about the aircraft. At the same time, you can see movies. I mean, the usual stuff you see in IFEs, but I've never seen such a fantastic IFE in terms of UI, in terms of experience. It is fantastic. So guys, congratulations. I know you have a hard time. You know how many IFEs they have concurrently
like
at Turkish?
Different versions?
Yeah, they have 20.
That's ridiculous.
But because they have this thing where they buy a new aircraft and they try a new IFE, and they've been having, I think the strategy for a long time was, let's keep a younger fleet, so let's buy a new aircraft, new product. But I think this time they settled something, so they will improve. This one will be the one that you'll see more and more in other aircraft. It's fantastic. So I hope Turkish guys deploy that IFE in other routes because this is fantastic.
But that's part of the problem with these guys, isn't it? Ultimately, the inconsistency across the product on the same route and the of the hard product, and as well as the huge inconsistency in soft product, both on the ground and in the air.
I think it's like you're right. But I think it's they are buying more aircraft, newer aircraft, which means they will be phasing out some of the other product, of course. But like I said, they have a very young fleet, so it's kind of hard to say, oh, let's just ditch all these aircraft that already are still very well maintained. So it's true. There's an inconsistency that forced me to the 1255 from Istanbul Ataturk to London is the one I should take because of the A330. It's true that it shouldn't be that way, but I'm going to give them the time to get there. They will. I honestly believe they can get there and they are doing, there are seats, because I was trying to know, who does their seat? I've never seen a seat like that. And actually, I think they're doing them themselves. They have a subsidiary company for Turkish, and they do their own seats. And they're really, 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 really cool. So, no, kudos to them for doing that. I hope it's true they're inconsistent. I think they have a long way to go to be consistent. But even the small flight I took from Istanbul to Zagreb, which was, A320, I think, so it was nothing special. Very good quality. The seats were very good, like regular seats that you find, like normal recliner seats that you find anywhere in all the aircrafts, and even including EasyJet. But very good quality. If this product plus the premium product just mentioned, the A330 and the 770, that's the future of Turkish. Yes, they're probably one of the best airlines in Europe.
Yeah, I'm going to have to try them then. Because I have an opportunity. I'm still playing with my flights for an upcoming trip, and
we mentioned
product is appealing for sure.
767 with VA or that.
Yeah.
Honestly, the product is really, really good. The food is also good, and I loved it. So Turkish kudos for that, because could continue that way, and I'll tell people that you're the greatest. If you continue the old ways and you're still not making a better customer service, not that much. So you're halfway there. Let's put it like this, So since we talk Turkish, obviously the home airport is called Istanbul Ataturk. Have you ever been to that airport, Alex?
Yes. Let's see, 3 or 4 years ago.
So what do you think?
Not cool. Not cool at all.
So the airport was, they're the two terminals, basically, domestic, that you probably won't fly unless you fly within Turkey, and of course international. The international dates from 2000. And what you can see that it has completely outlived its purpose. It was built at a time where because Turkish is this company that we just mentioned that went from a very traditional flight carrier. They made some good strategic decisions in the 80s and the 90s, but it really exploded in the 2000s.
Yeah.
And it was made for maybe 10 million passengers? And we are now at, I think there's just on the international terminal, there must be at least almost 40 million. And that shows. It's impossible to navigate. There's so many people. You try to go through security, it takes you forever.
Yeah.
But there's no room, basically. There's no room.
Well, and I think it's only fair to point out that they are very close to having a new airport.
Yeah, this is why we are going to allow ourselves to bash a little bit that airport, because they will have a new airport by 20, which, by the way, amazes me. The tender of the new airports was 2013, 2 years ago. The airport opens in 2 years. And we have other cities, including here in London, where it takes you seemingly 20 years just to build a runway.
Just to even get the okay to do it in the first place.
In 4 years, they're able to go from nothing to have a new airport, which will host, in the end, when it's finished, 150 million passengers a year.
Amazing,
so anyway,
isn't it?
So Ataturk, any tips, any things you want to say? That I have a few.
The only thing I was going to say is make sure you get there in good time, because you have to go through security twice. Once to get into the airport, and then once to get to the end to airside.
There are X-ray machines at the entrance, and then again, of course, for the security. Yeah, it's true. So it takes you a little bit of time to do that. It's a not very clear airport to navigate. Sorry, guys. It's really a bit. It's always full, meaning there's people all over the place. You cannot expect to just breeze through, or you just have to use your shoulders. It's always packed to death, again, because of the reason that we said. If you're in premium, I know not many are, but I was lucky to be twice there in premium. What I learned this time I didn't know, there's a security that leads you directly, if you fly Turkish or any of the alliance partner, directly through the Turkish lounge. The Turkish lounge is very clever because it has won many times over the best lounge in the world, etc. Well, the reason I say it's clever is because the airport was not made to host such a lounge. So they did a building within a building. Next time you go there, look at it, and you'll see that it's almost like, I think it's a bit Hollywood. They build this stuff. You can see the old structure of the airport around it, and they put like a structure within it. It's huge.
They say in some of their advertising, our lounge is as big as some airports.
It is. There's 2 floors. There's virtual golf. There are PlayStations.
What?
There's like no, I'm not kidding. There are restaurants. There are areas. There are piano playing. There are like food all over the place, including local food, and Turkish food is really amazing. Oh yeah, there's a really smart thing about your luggages. There's a lot of space to actually, lockers. They are actually transparent. So very clever. So you put your luggage there and you code it, and then you can see it from away.
That's cool.
It's a very nice. Is it the best lounge I've ever been to? I'm not going to say it is, because it's already sometimes way too packed, but it's fantastic. The rest of the airport, there are a lot of shopping, a lot of usually duty-free stuff. There's a few restaurants, none of them really anything to write home about. But I think it's because, like Alex just mentioned, the new airport will open. So it seems that they have a bit stopped of really investing in that one. It's just like, let's use that as much as we can until the end of days. And the other sad thing that you have to know, though it's a good airport in terms of destinations, it's the second worst airport in terms of cancellations and delays.
That's good to know.
When I told you the story earlier about my flight was canceled, I never got an explanation why it was canceled.
Really?
My feeling was nothing. No one told me, was it mechanical failure? It just canceled. So of course my gut feeling told me maybe the plane was not full enough and they just canceled it. But apparently there's so many problems of capacity at that airport that they just cancel flights all the time, and the delays are really big. So that's you have to know that if you fly there, because it's not only a destination airport. They have this strategy. They're thinking about the same one that, Singapore, Hong Kong, Dubai, Abu Dhabi. They have this hub and spoke strategy when they want you to use Turkish to fly in the world. So be careful about that. And timing to, even though you stay within the international terminal, you have to clear security once more before reaching your next gate. And that, because we just said the airport is packed, takes you forever. The queue, the time I was there was a queue was, honestly, I'm not kidding, must have been at least an hour long.
So the only time that I have been there, I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but I got picked up by one of those carts at the gate as I came off the airplane. And a VIP card. I wasn't injured or anything. And they took us through this special immigration lane and security lane, both going and coming. So I didn't have to endure that. That will not be the case next month.
Lucky you, never happened to me. You always find the best.
I don't know how
travel with you more.
That happened, but I wasn't going to say no.
So our conclusion is that it's not a great airport. It's not a great airport for layovers either. There's the hotel airport. Honestly, scrap. Sorry, but the quality is not there and it's too expensive for what it is. I've slept one night there before having my flight canceled. So you know what? They're going to have a new airport. So thankfully, they're not sure if they're going to shut this one off completely or if they're going to retain it for some domestic activity. It's not sure yet, but I'm really looking forward for the new airport, because I think it will also help Turkish as an airline to finally maybe get to that ambition. They want to be one of the major airlines like Emirates and others, because that's a huge bottleneck for them.
Yeah, it is. And I think it looks like it's going to be a spectacular airport.
I hope so, because Istanbul is one of the most fascinating cities you can visit. It's fantastic. I really advise all the people here to go, and hopefully you, Alex, will do a attaché show in Istanbul one of these days.
Perhaps. No, I don't know if I'll do one this time, but I may do a little mini one just because it is a great city, as you say.
Great food. I know.
Yeah, I know. It would basically be a little show of me eating things, which most of them are, frankly.
I'm looking forward to look at you eating things. On that, I know I've talked a lot this episode because I had this.
Yeah, you had this unbelievable adventure, and I don't think you can use any other word. It was definitely an adventure.
So next time, I promise the show will be around Alex and eating food in it.
Yeah, that's my thing.
Happy travels.
All right, safe travels, guys.
On behalf of Layovers and the entire crew, we would like to thank you for joining us on this podcast today. And we're looking forward to seeing you on board again next week. Flight attendants, please prepare for landing.